Hey everybody, it's DevOps Mike. Today we're going to be looking at the Krew plugin Stern, which gives you an easier way to work with Kubernetes logs. We're going to look at common patterns for looking at logs, how to install Stern, and some sample Stern commands. Okay, so let's look at some common patterns for looking at Kubernetes logs. The first thing I want to show you is an alias I use all the time for kubectl. And if I grep my aliases for kubectl, you can see K is the alias I use for kubectl. So if I want to say get namespaces, it's just K get ns. That prevents me from having to type kubectl all the time. I'm a fast typer, but I often make mistakes, so it prevents a lot of hitting backspace. So, all right, so kubectl logs. So let's look at some logs for containers in the web namespace. So first thing I need to do is see what pods we have in the web namespace. So okay, get pods -n web. Cool. We've got 3 Nginx pods. Let's say we want to look at some kind of traffic pattern, and we're not exactly sure which Nginx container those logs are in. So right now, and what I see when pairing with people commonly is that they're going to do k logs. They're going to pick a pod name, and they're going to say, you know, the namespace web. And there they go. They got their logs. Now, this may or may not have what they want. If it doesn't, okay, well, they're going to have to go to the next container, specify the namespace, and look for logs, right? Kind of inefficient. So let's say instead of specifying the pod name, we want to use a label selector. So we'll then go k describe pod, the pod name, and we'll look for something that we could use as a label selector. So labels app equals nginx. That looks pretty good. So now we'll do k logs -l for label selector, app equals nginx -n web. Okay, that showed me all logs for any container that had the app equals nginx label in it. But let's say I wanted to tail these logs and look for something that's currently happening in our environment. Well, then I'd have to do a -f to follow the logs. So now, as you can see, we're following the logs. It didn't end. But I also don't know which pod any of these log lines came from. So if I want to get the container name, I have to put a -- prefix there. So now you can see I get the pod name and the container name, and I'm following the logs, and I'm using the app selector. But it was quite a journey to get there. You know, I had to first see what pods I had. I had to describe the pods. I had to add a label selector. I'm specifying the namespace. I had a -f to follow, -- prefix. So it was a lot of work to get there. So let's now take a look at how we could use the Kubernetes Stern plugin to make our lives easier. So let's install the Stern plugin. Now, using Krew to manage your plugins is super easy. We're going to use that same k alias, and we're going to say k Krew list, and this will show us what plugins we've got. We do not have Stern, so let's go ahead and install it. So we'll say k Krew install Stern. There we go, it's installed. So now if we say k Stern -- help, we can see we've got the Stern plugin installed. All right, now that we've got the Stern plugin installed, let's start using it. Before we do, I want to show you some of the Krew plugins that I use. So specifically this NS plugin. So what I'm going to do with this NS plugin is I'm going to set my namespace, and I'm going to set it to web. And this allows me to run commands without always having to specify the -n namespace. So now if I just do kget pods, it's going to give me all the pods from the web namespace. All right. So before, when we were using kubectl logs, we had to build quite a lengthy command to look at all of our logs for Nginx pods, to follow the logs, to show the pod and container in the prefix. But I'm going to show you how to do that with Stern very easily. So we're going to do kstern, and then we've got a regex as the next parameter for the pods we want to select. And we're just going to do anything that starts with Nginx. And that's it. We got it. So we selected all the Nginx pods. We're tailing the logs. And you can see we're also printing the pod name as well as the container being Nginx. So let's look at some more advanced examples of using Stern. So before we were just doing kstern, Nginx, and we were looking at all the logs. So let's interact with our Nginx containers a little bit. So kget pods, we could see that we've got 3 Nginx containers and this troubleshooting container. So if I describe pod troubleshooting, you can see that this troubleshooting container is running an echo command, hello, sleeping 10 seconds, and it's also running an Alpine image with curl. So that's going to give me the opportunity to run some curl commands in our environment. So let's do a kget pods -o wide. Formatting on that is a little bad, so let's do it this way. All right, so we've got IPs for our pods. We've got this troubleshooting pod. Now I've got this troubleshooting pod here so that we can interface with these IPs. So let's do our kstern Nginx. We're going to follow our logs. Now I want to exec a command in our troubleshooting pod. And what I want to do is I want to start curling our Nginx containers. So the Nginx container that ends in 26, we're going to curl. And yeah, look at that. We see our log line. Now, just to make it a little more clear, let's run that again. Yep, there's our command line. And that's just a general best practice I have when I'm tailing things. I like to put some blank lines in there so I know for sure when I'm getting some new output. So that was the 26 pod. Now, if I run my curl command again, but instead of that pod, I want to look at the SX pod, I am going to curl the -10 IP. And there we go. SX shows up. And one thing to note is that in our Stern output, we're seeing everything. We're seeing successes. Now, I think a more common scenario is to exclude successes and only look at failures. So within Stern, there's an exclude command, and I could just exclude 200 because I don't care about 200 response codes. So if I go ahead and run that curl command again, you notice I didn't get a new line there. Now, if I put a bad URL, there we go. You can see down here, I got a 404 and I logged a 404. And there's our 404 response there. So this is a good way to trim down your logs very easily to see only the errors that you want. Let's look at one more benefit that we get out of using Stern, and that is the -o output parameter. So if I do kstern --help, there is a -o output parameter, and what I really want to look at is the JSON option. So let's replace our command above where we were tailing errors. So we were excluding 200. Let's change the output to JSON. So let's just take a look at that. And you can see here now every single log entry is a JSON object. And what that allows us to do is leverage JQ to extract fields out of here. Now, JQ is a very powerful utility. Definitely deserves its own video. So we're just going to show how we can use it here to extract the pod name from the log line that we're getting from our containers. So I'm going to run my same kstern command. We're going to exclude 200s. We're going to specify an output type of JSON, and then we're going to pipe that to JQ and say, hey, JQ, give me the pod name out of there. And there you go. We've got all of the pod names available to us. So let's do another get pods -o wide. And let's just run another kexec. So we're going to do it against the .9 IP, which is going to be the ZB pod. And there you go. We can see our output there. And if we just choose, let's choose the .11 pod, which will be the 2.6. And there it is. And if we put a valid URL, again, we don't see anything. So this is really valuable when it comes to scripting, leveraging some advanced features within JQ. We can write some pretty powerful command line utilities once we have our output in a JSON object leveraging JQ. And we're going to wrap up Stern with that, but there's a ton of other options available with Stern. So I encourage looking at kstern --help, messing with some of these parameters. Also, there's a whole bunch of other Krew plugins. So go to the Krew website, take a look at what plugins they've got available, and start messing around with those. Hey everybody, this is Mike. Thanks for watching my video on the Krew plugin Stern. I hope you found the information useful. If you have any questions, definitely post to the comments. And if you found this was helpful, please go ahead and click the subscribe button. Thanks, and talk to you all soon.